Okay, so like we said before, this video is now recording. We're doing a presentation called VAR, which is Validate, Appreciate, and Refer. This is not something that McKinney and I created. We're just presenting information that we have found. And we want to make sure that we're providing in a way that you guys understand. So if you have questions or if something's not making sense, feel free just to stop us and we are happy to answer those questions. Also, like McKinney and I were talking with you guys earlier, we have a feeling that this is stuff you've already done before. Like, we know that you guys are great with customer service. That's why you're hired. That's where you work. It's probably why you're going into one of the fields you're going into. So a lot of this is probably going to be like a review, and that's totally fine. But now at least you have a name for what you have, and you can say you've been to a VAR training, so that's fun. Where we got this from was a Signalvine presentation that we attended, and the Signalvine presentation got it from Becky Fiend. She's the Director of Training and Engagement at Active Minds.
Right, so one of the tools that I think everybody is familiar with is active listening. And it's a technique used in counseling or social services settings or school settings that involves solving disputes, mediating, or just having a person feel heard. And it just requires you to fully concentrate and understand and respond to the person in a way that you understand what they're saying. And so VAR expands on that idea to help them actually feel heard. So my name is McKinney Sobral. I am one of the 2 behavioral health counselors here at Renton Technical College.
My name is Sarah Hoagland. I am the other behavioral health counselor here at Renton Technical College. You may notice, as we were previously discussing our pets, that our pets are very proudly displayed on this. McKinney and I both, I would say, spend a lot of time with our little pets. So we always think it's fun to include a little bit something personal when we provide a presentation, and pets are probably the most fun thing.
At this time, we are accepting referrals, and so that's going to be part of this presentation. We provide short-term behavioral health counseling that is both free and confidential.
And free and confidential means that if you are a student at the college, you have already paid for our services. So free means 100% free. We're not going to ask for your insurance. We're not going to ask for copay. We're not going to ask for anything. If you come to us and you're a currently enrolled student, we will see you for services. And then confidential means that even if you're referred to us by a teacher, like if a teacher says, hey, they're having trouble with their homework, you know, which is weird, and like maybe they're a little withdrawn in class, I'm concerned, can you reach out to them? We'll reach out to you, see how you're doing, and then your teacher can be like, hey, how are things? We're gonna be like, we don't know what you're talking about. We do not disclose any information. So if you have somebody who does refer you, or you refer a friend or something like that, and then you ask about it, because of confidentiality, which is really important to therapists, which basically means we don't tell anybody anything. So we would not then report out to that teacher how you were doing. We would not tell your friends. We would not communicate that with even our dean. We would probably not admit that or discuss that with, the only person we discuss it with is each other, because we do something called case consult where we talk about what's going on and if we see some patterns of students, because we think that's really important. Also, real quick, I do notice that a couple of people have joined us. So I just want to remind everybody, we're having everybody keep muted. This is recording. So if you are a student and you're going to participate, which we really hope you will, please make sure, if you don't want your name on the recording, to change your name to student, so that we can protect your privacy. That's important to us. If you're okay with your name being shown, that's fine. We're okay with that too. But we want to give you that option. So we said that earlier, but I know not everybody was here, so we want to make sure everybody has that option.
And also in the chat, I went ahead and put the behavioral health team RTC webpage, as well as our YouTube channel that does have other presentations on coping skills.
All right, so I'll start this one. A little background on VAR. So like we've said before, and like we will continue to say, VAR is something you probably have already done. But the nice thing about it in this way is it's set up in a really easy to remember acronym. Yes. And and it's a 3-step method, which really lets people communicate with students in general. So if you're talking to a student, it's easier for me to remember things if I have like something like, oh, VAR, okay, what am I supposed to do? Because sometimes when somebody's upset or yelling at you on the phone, your mind goes a little bit blank and you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? So that's one of the reasons why we chose, because it seemed easy. It seemed like things that people probably already knew. It just put it in a really easy layout. And so VAR stands for validate, appreciate, and refer. And again, you probably already know this, you're probably already doing this. But one of the things we thought was really important was at the end of this is the refer part, which is a list of all the resources that we could come up with at the college. Because it's not helpful to be new here or to be, I'm like McKenny and I are, we've only worked here for 6 months-ish. And so if you have a student and they need a resource, but you don't know who to refer them to, that makes it really difficult. So I think the other half of this, the reason why we chose this presentation and this modality was because the R is for refer, and it really gave us an opportunity to kind of lay out all the different resources that the college had. And there's a lot. So we thought it was important to talk about those too.
So the first is validate, and that is exactly what it sounds like. You're letting the person know that not only do you hear what they're saying, but what they're feeling is valid. So, you know, they come in, they might not be saying anything that sounds totally rational. They might come in and just be like, oh my God, they told me to do this homework and I didn't do it and I'm so angry, right? On the surface, you're like, oh, you didn't do your homework, you don't really have a right to be angry. You're not gonna say that. What you're gonna say instead is, oh my goodness, that is so difficult. I hear you're really angry right now. You want them to know that their feelings make sense. Even if what they're saying, the content doesn't necessarily make sense, their feelings make sense. That's what you want to validate in order to keep the conversation going and kind of troubleshoot and problem solve to the extent that you can. So you want to paraphrase, echo, mirror any sentiments, and basically repeat back to them whatever feelings that you're hearing them say. So they say, I'm angry. You say, oh my goodness, that is so frustrating. And you know, they may say that they feel like nobody listens to them. You say, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. That's really tough. And so that is the validate piece.
If you guys would like to participate, which we would really love, and again, we said we know that you guys have used this in the past. Have you ever used a validating statement in the past that's been really successful? And if you have, what was it? Or if you want to throw anybody under the bus, have you ever heard anybody say something that was not validating and then it didn't go well? Because I think that's really important for us to talk about too, right? Like what goes well, and then, oh, I said this once and I realized as soon as I said it that wasn't helpful.
So my background is in parenting education, and it sounds quite similar to something that we call the fast food rule. With the idea is that when you drive up to a fast food place and you order your, you know, burger and fries, say you drive up and the person says to you, what would you like? And you say burger and fries, and then they repeat back to you, oh, you'd like a burger and fries. And then at that point, then they say to you, drive to the next window. And we use that in parenting quite a lot because it is, in fact, it's a really easy concept to grasp. It's that when your children or when your adults and your students are really frustrated, you can really see people just taking like a breath and the anger almost sort of flowing out of them, for want of a better phrase, when you validate what they're saying. And it's that concept of reflecting back what you've heard, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, they get it, and then you can move on to the next step.
That's exactly it. Like once a person feels validated, then they feel, okay, I think I can trust this person with more information. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Any other thoughts?
I had a situation yesterday where somebody was telling me about how the current state of things is very frustrating and it's overwhelming them. And I use a similar method. It was like, I understand it is a very overwhelming situation right now. This is an incredibly stressful time. What we can do for ourselves is take a step back, recenter ourselves, and try to come at everything that is happening with a more centered line. And that really helped them kind of open up and talk to me more. And it also helped calm them down, just to know that somebody was listening and was understanding. It's the comprehension part that's so important.
Yes.
People are venting and stressed and all of that.
And just to put another little nudge in there, if you're talking with somebody that seems really frustrated or overwhelmed, we do have 2 therapists on campus who are happy to help them with that. And you will hear us say this over and over again because we are very interested in getting referrals. So just so you guys know, I think too, like, let's just take a step back and think about this personally in our lives, right? Have you ever been in a situation where you said something to someone and you're like, man, I'm just like, I don't know, something's going on or blah, blah, blah. And then the person's like, calm down, or it's all in your head. How does that conversation go after that? And I'm thinking like in my personal life, right? So personally, if somebody told me to calm down, and I'm a therapist who's very rationally minded, we'll pretend, right? So I am just like, what? How dare you tell me? I am calm, right? It's just giving people like the exact opposite reaction than we want them to have. So I always try to think about things like, what if somebody said this to me? How would I feel? Like, that sounds difficult. That makes sense. Like, oh, that's really like validating. That's affirming. That's saying that they're hearing what I'm going through and they're not minimizing it, right? Because the other part of this too, I think that's important is, you know, you don't know what else is going on in people's lives. And to us, like, you know, maybe somebody's car breaks down or like you get a flat tire, right? A flat tire doesn't seem like the end of the world. But let's say whatever else is going on in that person's life, you know, they got a flat tire on their way to work, and if they're late again, they get fired, right? And so like that's a very different situation than, oh, it's just a flat tire. So when somebody's really stressed out and you're not able to understand exactly what it is, remember that there's usually a lot more going on than we know about, and rightfully so, right? Not everybody trusts us to tell us everything. So I always try to remember that too, like, oh, that doesn't seem like such a big deal, but in reality, a big deal is very relative to whatever else is going on in people's lives. Any questions or comments about validating? So the A it stands for appreciate courage. And I think the important part of that is not just the appreciate part, but the courage part. So for us, the second step is appreciate the student's courage and willingness to share their feelings. How difficult is it to share feelings sometimes? It can be really hard, especially when you've got a lot of stuff going on. So this step lets students know that they've made the right decision in sharing what they're going through. There's a couple of different examples, which I find to be pretty kind of universal, right? Like, it's hard to find the words with everything going on these days. Thank you for telling me that. It helps to know what you're going through. I appreciate that you shared. Staying open about your feelings will help us get through this. Is there anything that you guys have used? Because I feel like the validate and appreciate go very closely together, and they're almost one, really, right? Because I think in part of our conversations where we're validating people, we're also usually using some sort of appreciative language too. So I know we talked about this a little bit in the last one, but do you guys feel like there are any things that you've used in the past that have been really helpful, or again, that you realized right away were not the right things to have said? Or any of these statements, things you feel like you might be able to use?
I like the fact that it says, thanks for telling me that. It helps to know what you're going through, because you know, we really don't know what's happened, you know, that morning or you know, that day or that week or whenever. And you know, to have courage to share what you're feeling makes a person vulnerable. And so being able to, you know, just sort of thank that person for that courage to share is actually really a big step in certain people, or for certain people. So yeah, I really appreciate having that sentence. I shall remember that one.
And again, we're going to put this presentation up on YouTube, but we'll also provide you guys with the slides so you have these statements like with you when you're doing the calling campaign.
Mhm.
When we were looking through the options, we found that these were just like the most general ones. I'm sure you guys have your own that you've used in the past and maybe you don't even realize it. So think about it in the next couple of days while you're doing this and just kind of pay attention, because I bet that there's maybe a go-to phrase that you use and you're like, oh, that's that appreciate courage thing, right? McKinney, any thoughts before I go to, I just want to make sure I don't cut anybody off before I go to the next slide.
Well, I was just thinking of like a personal example, because we were talking about like kind of humanizing it by making it more personal. Last week I was having concentration issues because, you know, there's just stuff going on in the world, and I try to be really real with how I'm feeling, and I know sometimes it throws people off. So last week a coworker asked how I was feeling, and I was like, man, I have to be honest, I'm a little bit stressed about what's going on in the streets today. And I didn't know what else to say, so I just quickly changed the subject. And this person ended up checking in with me later, and they were like, just want to let you know you're not alone. Like, I'm worried too. And don't be embarrassed about telling me that. Like, it's not bad to talk about. And I felt very appreciated in that moment because I felt vulnerable for expressing that I was concerned. And then I felt very validated and appreciated for them saying that they heard me and that I wasn't by myself in those thoughts.
I think a lot of people are also caught off guard with how vulnerable therapists are often, right? We have very different conversations than other people. Like, oh,
Yeah.
wait, oh, okay, that's right. You're not another therapist. Maybe you don't understand what I'm saying.
I can actually jump in on that one because I have a therapist that I talk to regularly, and she takes the time and she'll pause and she'll kind of take a time. She'll say, I'm reflecting on what you've just said. I'm absorbing it.
Mm-hmm.
And just want you to know that I am listening and I'm trying to understand it from my perspective. And that is really reassuring. And also just the way that she says it makes a huge difference too.
I really like that.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, I like the way that your therapist says that I'm reflecting on that, because that makes it an active thing on behalf of the person who's listening. And I think that changes the relationship somehow.
I'll agree to that. I wanted to go back to her because of the language that she used. She was somebody that made me comfortable to be vulnerable in front of her versus like a friend or a coworker.
Yeah, she sounds wonderful.
Uh-huh. I think it's important too, even like, you know, in what you guys are going to be doing, if somebody says something and it's like maybe a little jarring, just to say like, you know, I heard what you're saying. I'm just taking a second to reflect on that and to absorb it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you're silent, people are very nervous. Silence causes a lot of anxiety in people. And for myself specifically, sometimes I have to sit with feelings for a minute to like figure out where they're coming from, or you know, like as a therapist, if somebody says something and I'm like, oh, I'm having like quite a physical reaction to that, like where's that coming from? Why am I feeling that? And so for clients, it can be very upsetting when the therapist is like just kind of sitting there. And so you have to make sure they understand like, oh, you know, I just have to sit with that for a second, like, and then they're like, you're like, no.
Yeah, and you know, it's a good way to let people know that you're taking in the information without rejecting it. That's the most important piece.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide.
Okay, so at this point, the person trusts you, and they say, you're so great to talk to. I feel like I could just keep going. I feel like I could come to you for anything. We all have our limitations, right? So we know that there are people on campus or that specializes in various skills and supports. And so we want to make sure that when we're hearing things that we know we cannot help the person with realistically long term, we might not have the right training for it, might not have the time for it, we want to make sure that we're getting them to the right services. So part of the conversation is letting them know, maybe we can make plans and look together. Sometimes taking care of yourself is important. I think I know who I can refer you to talk about that with. So you're determining, what skills a person might need to help them, and then you're getting them to the right
I think the other thing too is if you talk to somebody who seems like maybe they're in a place that's really unsafe or unhealthy, we did put the contact information for like the suicide prevention lifeline or the crisis connection line. We're hoping that you won't need to use this at all, but we think it's important for everybody to have and to know. So the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is, and this is my personal opinion, is wonderful because it allows for talking on the phone, chatting online, or texting, which I think covers kind of all the bases where we feel comfortable talking to people. And that's that little green tile on there. But there are other options too. There's Crisis Connections, and that's King County local, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then if you text home to 741-741, there's free 24/7 crisis counseling. And the thing I think people should know too is there should be no shame in calling these numbers. These numbers exist for a reason. There are trained professionals at the end of these lines in order to help people get through what they're going through. So I think part of the reason that the behavioral health team took on this like endeavor too was that we're really working to eliminate like some of the weird stigma that people have on therapy or crisis. There's no shame in having some struggles. I don't know anybody that I've ever spoken with in the whole world who wouldn't benefit from speaking to a therapist. Again, personal opinion, as I am a therapist, but a therapist is just somebody who can help you get through whatever you're going through, maybe help you create some healthy coping skills to deal with things in the future. Maybe help you process something that's happened in the past that feels like still stuck in your heart. And so there's therapists available here at the college if you're talking to somebody and you're like, maybe they could talk to somebody for a little while. I think that would help. Or if there's somebody like on here for crisis, if somebody's talking to you and you're just like really concerned about them, these are phone numbers that are available to them. The behavioral health team, we have these at the bottom of our signature lines too. So if you can't find the slideshow that we send, you can always just look for our email. Or if it's like, if you're really concerned and you're not sure what to do, you can always try to message us, right? Because you're probably gonna be working during the day and we'll probably be available too. So Microsoft Teams is, I think, probably the easiest way to get a hold of us. And I'm sure you guys have Microsoft Teams too. So maybe we could create a chat later too to make sure that we're available if you guys need anything. So, questions about referrals? And you probably have them, but that's okay. Our next couple slides are all the different offices and phone numbers. So, okay. So, McKinney, do you want us to go through each of these individually, or should we just kind of like briefly discuss some, because there's a lot.
Well, why don't we show everybody the resources, and if you guys have any questions about the resources, we can give a little bit more information.
Also, if you guys have used these resources and you feel like the description isn't quite accurate, feel free to let us know. And you're like, oh, I went here and they did this for me. or like, hey, I think if you changed it to this, that would be really good, because this document is ever changing, right? People change jobs, the college gets a new grant for something, and then we have a new resource. So there's always different things available, and there's always new things available all the time. So let us know if you find something that you don't think is accurate, or if you provide somebody a phone number and it doesn't work, because that's important information for us to have right now too. So this is the start of our resources. I think it's 3 or 4 pages, 5 pages.
Yeah, and actually just thinking about it, if somebody is, let's say that since this is a recording, if somebody's listening to this instead of reading it, maybe we could just kind of go through briefly actually.
Okay. Do you just want to go one to one? Each of us take one? Okay.
Yeah, so we're the behavioral health team. We've introduced ourselves in the beginning. We are accepting referrals for telehealth at this time, and telehealth looks very similar to what we're doing now. So 2 people talking on the screen. You do not have to have a diagnosis in order to come talk to us. I should say a current student who is enrolled in the quarter doesn't have to have a diagnosis in order to talk to us. We offer 8 to 12 sessions, and we really can cover just about anything. Test anxiety, frustration with teachers, anxious at home, anxious about COVID. We cover it all. So our phone number is 425-235-5759. And I did put our webpage in the chat as well as our YouTube page.
Do you feel like we should go through the LRCC since that's where you guys work, or
would anybody like to say something about LRCC?
I would love to hear what you guys have to say about the LRCC.
Well, I haven't been there very long, but I know a little bit. We certainly provide tutoring online right now, and there's a tutor available, I think, every day, Monday through Friday, certainly at 11 until 4-ish maybe, and it covers a whole different set of skills. So I'm sort of in that sort of CCP place, but I know that there's people that tutor for maths and others, and yes, it also offers a food bank and computer labs when we're open. Other than that, I don't really know.
I think I saw Ty pop in.
Hey. I thought a little bit. I heard somebody wants to hear a little bit about the LRCC.
We sure do.
I said this might be a good time for me to chime in. But no, I mean we pretty much anything associated with assisting anyone with any academic or career process, we've been doing for about 7 or 8 years, and we've also revamped and kind of refortified our community outreach, if you will, services, right? To kind of get that threefold, that 3-tier, that 3 whatever pillar thing you want to do. We want to work on academics, we want to work on employment, and we want to live out the name, right? We want to provide resource helps. So if we're the Learning Resource and Career Center, I think we're doing a pretty bang up job right now of living out those 3 ideals, those 3 pillars in our name. So we offer that tutoring, computer help labs. Yep, you can add resources, you know, like we're trying to up things like personal care resources. We're trying to even look at economic empowerment resources, even things like SNAP benefits and EBT benefits, and in this case, behavior and mental health type resources, right? We're really trying hard. I think we need to, because in this season, we're finding that a lot of folks who would normally be able to gain energy from collectives, from interactions, don't have that capability right now. And so we want to be a part of that process. So that's why this meeting was so, and training was so important, because it helps us become more adept at that process of saying, if you need help, we're here. We're going to be mean, my goal is to make it the one-stop shop, right? I know we don't have a student center, but we're kind of bootlegging as a student center right now. So whatever you need, if we don't have it, we're going to connect you to it. So, and grateful for, you know, the team that's on here, others that are watching and listening. Marina was listening in, and she got called away. This represents pretty much every aspect of what we do at the LRCC. I know you guys see Fu on here. If you haven't met Fu, he's the operations lead. He's my the rock, the solid guy. He's been here the longest. He knows everything that there is to know. And I thought he was on vacation, but apparently not. But he and I have been talking since day one about expanding the capacity and the footprint. So all three of us working together. I know for the point of contact, you can put my name on there so folks know that it's me being on here. I don't like to do that, but I think it's about that time to come out.
I'll do it.
Yeah, we didn't put it on there for a reason. So if you want it on there.
Yeah, you can put it on there. Folks can contact. I don't live in the hierarchical system, but sometimes folks do, and they need a name with a face. So you can definitely throw my name on there. And yeah, it's what we do. I think also, and you can talk about the community resource. I don't know how you want to verbiage that in the description part. Y'all are way smarter than I am with that kind of stuff. But kind of encapsulate, you know, some of those resources that were really outreach services, whatever. I don't want to step on anybody's toes with terminology. You know, that can get funky. But yeah, however you want to, because I want folks to know that we have that. Huh?
Resource connections.
Ooh,
I mean, I told you you're way smarter than I am in that.
I like it.
You know,
I can put that on there. I was thinking too about if we put Ty's name on there, putting a quote underneath it. If you need help, we're here. And also,
it's almost Friday. You can't put.
And we also have the Zoom lobby on here too.
Yeah.
So that's another resource for students that they can come and see like this. Not see, but like they can log on and see people virtually. Both us, we are part of a behavioral health Zoom lobby, and then there's the LRCC Zoom lobby. So there's a ability to come and like talk to somebody or like see somebody's face instead of trying to send an email or do a phone call or whatever. So
yeah, this is awesome. So yeah, I'll save my other speech for later.
Okay.
But thank you again. I have to step away in about 6 minutes to go handle a guest that's coming. But thank y'all so much for doing this, and thank my great team, the great people of the LRCC. Nice to meet you. I won't say anybody's name because people are on here. They don't want to be, you know, recorded. But thank y'all. We'll talk again. Some of these folks are new. We are super excited about that. But thank you, Sarah McKinney, for doing this for us. We really appreciate it.
We're happy to help and be a part of your team.
Yeah, thank you.
The next one is DRS, which stands for Disability Resource Services. And this one is so interesting because I don't think a lot of people know about DRS. So the person who runs it, his name's Jake, and he helps people who need accommodations in order to be successful in class. So let's say, heaven forbid, you break your arm and it's your writing arm. How are you gonna take notes in class? How are you gonna be successful? What are you gonna do? Well, you go talk to Jake, and Jake makes sure that you get somebody to take notes for you in class, and he talks to the instructor, and they do what's called an accommodation worksheet and tells the instructor that like you need a little bit of extra time because you broke your arm and you can't like write out the essay and stuff. And also you need somebody to help take notes for you or that sort of thing. But he has the ability to help with accommodations for lots of different things. So, but I do believe that this requires a medical diagnosis. So if you had an IEP in high school, this is where you would use that. And an IEP is called an individual education plan. If you had something going on that you need some additional help with, the college is really here to help with that. And like I said, we have tons of resources. This is just our first page. So Disability Resources Services, we call it DRS. The person in charge of that, his name's Jake, and basically you would go to his website, the link is there, or you would call the phone number and you'll schedule an appointment to meet with him. And then from there, you guys would talk about what kind of like paperwork he might need in order to help. It's important to get this going at least 3 to 4 weeks before classes start, because it takes some time to get things in place. So it would be really important for you guys to, if you have something in mind, or if you are interested in something, some sort of accommodation, you're like, oh, hey, like, yeah, I sprained my ankle, I can't get to class in time. Chat with him. He is so helpful. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so the next one is the resource team, and that is headed by Krista, Takwa, and Samantha. I believe they're part of, well, they're part of a few different departments, but anyway, they formed the resource team to kind of help bridge the gap. So if a student says, I'm looking for housing, I need help signing up for unemployment, I need long-term mental health counseling, or short-term, and they just need to talk to someone immediately, and that can be us. We would refer to the resource team. We're working on getting a phone number because they're not an official team. I don't think they have a phone number, but they are available on Microsoft Teams. So if you need help contacting them, you can reach out to us. We can reach out to them. Or if you want to search their names, they should be on there. And you can let them know that you have a student that needs help with resources that LRCC can't provide. They're really good with the outreach aspect as well.
And I would say too, and this is, now maybe we need to think about bleeping this part out, but I'm not sure we would want students to just contact these people on their own. I think this would have to be a referral, right? Because we didn't put any phone numbers or emails on there.
Yeah, I'm thinking you'd reach out to them in Microsoft Teams, and then or if you can't reach them, contact us. We're in contact with them relatively.
The other thing that they said too was, if you, so the website on there, the www.rtc.edu/askrtc, if you wanted to provide a referral in there, like, I'm a student at LRCC, I was speaking to a student and they needed this, because that's just like a form email. They said that if you put it in there, that they would get that too. So, but I don't know how long that takes, and I don't know if you get any confirmation. So I would fully understand if you weren't interested in doing it. But if you were providing information to a student, I think that would be probably the option. I wouldn't give them any of these people's names specifically, I don't think. Because when I reached out to them, they didn't want any of their specific emails or phone numbers listed. And that makes sense, right? Because they're not like an official team yet. So maybe we'll delete this part of the presentation later. Okay, sorry, my turn. Program advisors. Program advisors are the people that you talk to about scheduling your classes and about degree plans. McKinney and I are actually also program advisors. We advise for the business program, and so that consists of, I do mostly, oh wow, no, that's what McKinney does. I do mostly accounting and office assistant, and McKinney does mostly contemporary business and legal assistant. Basically, this is another person that's one of those liaisons to resources. So our main focus is to help get you enrolled in classes, get you registered for the right classes, talk about like what your degree plan is. And what a degree plan really is just the list of classes you need to take in order to complete your certificate, associate's degree, or bachelor's degree, because those are things that we all offer here at RTC. But also, if you're like, hey, I need this, we can also be a person who can help reach out to people or give you some information. There is a text number.
Oh, probably for Signal Line.
Okay, maybe there's a text number.
Yeah, that's for Signal Line.
Okay, it's for Signal Line. So if you've ever received a notification from anybody, it's through a program we call Signal Line, and it's not actually texting like a human, it's texting a program. and then somebody in our department gets it, and then we respond via Signalvine, which is again an application that we use. There's the main phone number. We have a website, and we also have the Zoom lobby. And the Zoom lobby is staffed from 9 to 11 right now. Who knows what it's going to be at this very moment in time. So if you're watching this in a time that's not like July or August, maybe check back. But currently it's staffed from 9 to 11 and 2:30 to 4:30, Monday through Thursday. So there's somebody from entry services, or someone from advising. Sometimes there's someone from behavioral health, depending on when McKenny and I are in there. Sometimes there's somebody in there from registration, and sometimes there's somebody in there from financial aid. So it can be super helpful. If you don't know who your program advisor is, that is important information to have, because they really are the person that helps you get registered. So if you have questions about that, let us know, and we can help you figure it out.
And also if you go to the website here, rtc.edu/advising, it does list out the advisors and programs that we advise for as well.
And just a quick thing, so you probably have an entry advisor. Your entry advisor is the person who got you started in the program. And our entry advisors are amazing. You probably spoke with Chelsea or Marcia. They do so much, and they have to know so much. So they're the people who help get you started and kind of help with your first quarter. And then after that, you go see a program advisor. So if you're like, oh yeah, I know who my advisor is, it's Chelsea or it's Marcia. There's a specific program advisor who specializes in that program after Chelsea and Marcia help get you started. And we're grateful for them every single day, because they do so much. They were out yesterday, and it was pandemonium for us.
We met them.
Next, yeah.
So let's say you're doing VAR and you're doing a fantastic job, and then the student is like, oh, and my instructor. If you don't know where to go, we did put the web page for that. It lists the student's rights, but it also lists its student instructional concern. The other thing is you can refer back to program advisors. We're in communication with instructors pretty frequently. So you could refer back to us, and we can talk with the student and with the instructor. Or if the student just feels more comfortable jumping into the instructor complaint, they can file that as well. That is their right.
And I think maybe just like a word of caution too. So I think there is like listed like when you're supposed to use instructional complaints. So just maybe double check that before, or maybe I'm lying. We'll see. Because I think that there's a couple of, you know what? No, I think if a student feels like they need to file a complaint, they should.
No, well, you're also right though. If let's say they're talking about harassment, for example, you're going to want to report that to the Office of Human Resources. But if it's something like a grading issue, that would be maybe an instructor.
Right. So like there's some places, like it's weird because there's like more than one place for this. So if you have questions about where they should go, or if the student's like, I don't know, this doesn't feel like I'm filling out the right form or whatever, or the student is concerned about it, you can take it to us as either program advisors, or you can reach out specifically to McKenny and myself as therapists, and we can talk to the student. So let's just do that quick Title IX blurb. So everybody at the college is a mandated reporter, and a mandated reporter means that if somebody tells you something that is terrible, then you are required to tell someone about it. So if someone says like, I can't even think of an example.
Yeah, so somebody walks up to you and for example, they're like, something terrible happened. It involves my partner. It involves a teacher. Somebody physically hurt me. Sarah, you want to jump back in there?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm always like so cautious about giving an example because I want to like make sure we're not doing any harm. So somebody walks up to you and says something terrible happened. It involved me and my partner. What's really important to know right then is that everybody at the college is a mandated reporter. You're required to report that to our Title IX department. Now, McKenny and I, because we are licensed therapists, We are not mandated reporters. We have a different relationship with students. So what we usually encourage people to do is to stop and say, thank you so much for trusting me with whatever you're about to say, but I really think that you should know that I'm a mandated reporter. And what that means is if you tell me something that's super private, even though it's super private, I have to tell someone. Now, there are 2 people on campus, Sarah McKinney, they're our therapists, and they're not required to tell people. So if you really feel like this is something that you want to talk about, and it probably is since you're coming to me to talk about it, maybe you should reach back out and to Sarah McKinney, or let me walk you, we're pretending like we're on campus, right? Let me walk you over to Sarah McKinney's office and introduce you, or let me give you Sarah McKinney's Zoom room, or let me give you their email address or their phone number. And that way you can have the opportunity to really like talk about what happened and then decide if you want to have it disclosed to the Title IX reporter. And we just think it's really important that everybody knows that, because sometimes students aren't ready to report that. And I really think it's their decision and they are allowed to make that choice on their own terms. College systems are so weird, right? Like, did you guys know that if you told somebody something, like your teacher, that they are required to then go and tell someone right away? Maybe not. And so we want to make sure that people do know that they are required to tell someone. And McKinney and I are not, which I think really provides people with some space and some ability to kind of think through their options and then decide, because maybe they just need to tell somebody because it's like hurting their heart and they need to process it. And maybe they don't want to do anything about it, or maybe they do, but they just need some support. And that's what we're there for too. So complicated. And again, as we're going through this, if you guys have questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, just let us know.
So College Technology Services, otherwise known as Information Technology, we refer to them as IT, but they are actually called College Technology Services. They are, I mean, I really see them as kind of like a catch-all for any technical issue. So like computer's not working, or I'm having trouble logging in, can't remember your password, or you waited past that 0 date to reset your password. Really, and even accessing Canvas, there's so much that they can do. Their phone number is 425-235-2500. We put their website on this as well. And yeah, they're great. And you know, for students specifically, they're really good with resetting passwords, helping access email, and accessing Canvas.
We also have a COVID-19 webpage. I don't know if you guys have heard of this thing. There's currently a pandemic. It's called COVID-19. It's affecting all of our lives. If you are concerned about what's going on with the college, or maybe what's new, or any information that has to do with it, the great thing about our COVID-19 page is that it's updated pretty regularly. So there's all this information in there. There's information about like plans on opening the college, if we're going to close the college, any COVID-19 related updates. And the website is www.rtc.edu/coronavirus.
And we also have the Zoom lobby. So you've seen that a few times listed. So there is a Zoom lobby page. It's rtc.edu/Zoom-lobby. And it covers all kinds of different virtual lobbies from different departments. So Sarah mentioned earlier, the behavioral health team has a midday break one, Wednesdays from 11 to 12. There's the RTC virtual assistance, which captures enrollment, advisors. Soon we're going to have registration available during that time. LRCC has one, RTC Library has one, Disability Resource Services has one. So just check out the Zoom lobby webpage for more information.
This is one that people don't usually hear about, and it's the RTC Foundation. It has 50 different scholarships. If you have not heard of them, please check out their website, because you could benefit from one of their scholarships. I'm sure everybody can. And basically the scholarships, I think, are mostly for books or tuition, but I know that there's other things too. I think there's like a COVID one that the foundation's doing, which can help with other things. So check out the foundation. And they have a different website, so I'm gonna let you look at it, and then you'll know what it is. And also, if you just go to the website rtc.edu and you type in foundation, it's the first thing that comes up.
There is workforce, and that's the contacts are Bilal or Faye. The phone number is 425-235-5840. This captures a lot of different programs. So there's basic food, employment, and training. So BFET, there's Work First, there's worker retraining. These are programs that are, some of them are connected to DSHS, social services. I feel like, am I missing anything in that?
I think maybe, and this is why we keep telling people this is a living one, because as I'm looking there, I said, oh, there's a comma. I must not have finished that. I think the only thing is, and right now I don't know, but one of the main things is if you're receiving any sort of state benefit and you need childcare, this is one of the main places you can go.
Mhm.
So if you're receiving SNAP benefits, or you're receiving cash benefits through Work First or BFET, and you have a child, so we won't get into the nitty gritty, and you have a child and you need daycare, this is one of the places that will authorize you to receive childcare while you're at school. And so, and it's for, the cost is so inexpensive. So it regulates the cost and provides you with like the authorization through the state in order to get most of it paid for because you're going to school. So this is really important and really helpful, I think, for families. Again, I don't know what that's going to look like right now, but in the future, it's super helpful. I know they can help with funding. I don't know exactly how or when, but you have to receive some sort of state benefits or be unemployed in the last 4 years, right?
Right.
Okay, right?
And if you aren't sure, definitely contact them. They can at least get you to the right place.
And I think their website is helpful too, because if any of those words sounded familiar to you, their website has like specific, like for Work First or BFET or those sorts of things, worker retraining, those kinds of things.
And they do also have a Zoom lobby, workforce information orientation. So for more information, they offer that Mondays from 10 to 11 a.m.
Oh, we'll add that then. That'll be really important for us to add. Again,
Yeah,
living content, right?
Yeah, that was just added on Friday.
Okay. And then since we both have been talking, I can't remember it. Financial aid. Financial aid is something that most of us are probably familiar with. The thing I find most interesting about financial aid is how many people don't know about it. So when I'm talking with students in any of my previous positions or in other jobs, you know, and I talk to them about going to college, some people don't know about financial aid. So financial aid assists students and parents in meeting basic educational costs. So basically what that means is if you qualify for financial aid, they can help pay for your college. And that's so important, right? So financial aid has their phone number. I think they also have a text that I must have forgotten to put on here. We'll update that. Their phone number is 425-235-5841. Their email is financialaid@rtc.edu. Now, let's just break this down real quick for a second, though, too. Financial aid is swamped right now. I think are down 1 or 2 people. I think we're working really hard on hiring those people, but they are doing a lot. So it might take a little bit longer than usual for you to get a response from them. So don't be surprised.
And I would say too, as advisors, we do have the ability to reach out to financial aid as well. So if a student has a question, we can always pass the question on more directly. And we don't want to give out any individual's information because we don't want them any more swamped. So again, if a student's having trouble reaching financial aid, please reach out to us. We can communicate with them as well.
And also, I think so right now, we're going to call it the Welcome Center Zoom lobby, but I forget what it's called right now. Entry and advising?
RTC virtual assistance, entry and general questions.
Wow. I'm pretty sure we're changing the name of that to the Welcome Center Zoom lobby. Thank goodness, because that is a mouthful. And in that one, at least as of right now, there is usually a financial aid person there in the mornings from 9 to 11. So I'm not saying send every student with a financial aid question to that Zoom lobby from 9 to 11. But if you do have students who specifically are like, look, I've emailed them, I've called them, I've texted them, I'm not getting any response. I've asked my advisor says I probably should talk to somebody in financial aid because this is really specific. The 9 to 11 a.m. Zoom lobby usually has at least one person from financial aid in there. So that I think is a good option. I know I've sent my students there before. So yeah, that would be my recommendation for right now. As things start to like slow down a little bit and as they're able to catch up and have more employees, then I think email response time will be faster and I think things will kind of catch back up. But I also want to tell people too, like when people are processing your financial aid application packet, you want them to take their time, right? You want them to look at all of the options for you and make sure that they've checked and double checked all the things because it could be the difference between like you getting financial aid and you not. So remember, some departments just their job and the process of their job takes longer than maybe other departments. So maybe you're used to getting an email back same day from your advisor, which is wonderful, but that is not what is normal for financial aid because of what their job entails. Oh, that was the end.
That's it. So were there any questions about VAR or the resources that we listed at the end? Oh, maybe, do we want to stop recording at this point?